Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on the Palo Alto Network's Cloud Next Generation Firewall service in Azure. My name is David Okeode. I'm the EMEA Azure CTO at Palo Alto Networks. I'm a Microsoft Azure MVP and I'm a cloud security author. And I have with me today Farhan Shanawaz from Microsoft. Hello, Farhan. How are you doing?
Hi, David. How are you?
Do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Farhan Shahnawaz. I'm a cloud solution architect in Microsoft. I specialize in app innovation and infrastructure, also look into data and AI as well. So I'll be presenting with David today on Azure well-architected framework, also OpenAI acceleration program as well.
Here's the agenda for today. Farhan will walk us through the Azure well-architected framework and security in the Azure cloud. We'll then cover the Cloud Next Generation Firewall for Azure Service by Palo Alto Networks and how it can be used to secure your enterprise landing zone at scale. We'll discuss deployment architectures and use cases and what we're doing with the Cloud Next Gen Firewall and OpenAI. And we'll spare some time at the end for questions and answers. So I'll hand over to Farhan to walk us through the Azure well-architected framework. Over to you, Farhan.
Thank you, David. So today we'll talk about well-architected framework. And well-architected framework has 5 pillars. So when you start from Microsoft well-architected framework, we focused on few things that really helps our customers to bring maturity into their cloud journey and look into few things like reliability, cost, operational excellence, performance efficiency, and security. So these are the 5 pillars that we have designated for a customer, how to bring maturity and bring excellence into their cloud journey. So well-architected framework looks into how to make your solution in Azure more reliable, optimized for cost, and which brings more efficiency and security into the solution. So in a well-architected framework, we have 5 pillars. The first one is reliability. Second one is cost optimization, how to optimize cost for all the resources and services. Third one is operational excellence. So it looks into how to bring efficiency into your design, look into the availability and disaster recovery, all these things, and also looks into your performance efficiency, how to make your solution scalable, and how to look into the services that can bring your solution make your solution more efficient. And finally, the security. So security is one of the biggest aspects nowadays that we have to look into the solution for any security reasons. How to bring security in the solution before designing and post-design is one of the main features of well-architected framework. So we'll touch base more into this one on the security part. So well-architected framework, it looks into the high-performing workloads. So build workloads from the confidence with the proven best practices, also design with the high-performing workload with deep technical guidance, and also how to optimize workloads with actionable focus areas. So for well-architected framework, there are a few things we offer from the Microsoft side. So we look into Azure we review the architecture for that it can align with the well architecture, and we look into Azure Advisor Score. We provide documentation for well architected framework. Also, we have support and partner and support programs for all the services. And we also provide reference architecture, so it can help you to build your architecture looking into all these 5 pillars. And we provide tons of design principles that can help you to optimize your solution cost and also looking at security as well. So looking into a little bit more on the well-architected framework. So if we've talked about this, so what are the cost optimization, operational excellence, and other 3 pillars are. So it's basically, it gives you the guidance and best practices to create your architect, developers, and solution owners to improve the quality of your workloads based on these 5 pillars, which is really helpful for any solution that you want to launch in your going for an IaaS or PaaS solution, or looking to deploy the solution into a SaaS architecture. So looking into the well-architected framework, especially today we'll discuss about the security part of it. Because me and David will be working for a while on Next-Gen Firewall. We are looking into next Palo Alto security as well and architecture as well. So one of the main concerns we have looked at the security practices that we need to bring into the solution. So In well-architected framework security, we focus on a few things like network security, endpoint security, identity management and privileged access, logging and threat detection, incident response, posture and vulnerability management, data protection, governance, and DevSecOps. So all these things and services are available in Azure as well. So we have different services that we offer for bringing the security and bringing all this into your solution. So looking a little bit deeper into how to build, manage the proactively secure workloads. So first, we look into building a secure foundation that can help you to design assuming the workload failures. Also, build a zero trust principle in both IaaS and PaaS solution as well. Also, to embrace the Azure security solution investment and resources that we offer and that complies with the certification. And secondly, we look into the proactively stay secure with the native controls. So once you deploy your solution, how to make sure that your solution is secure, your design is secured, and architecture has all the security things is doing the scanning and looks into the backdoors and everything. So we have Azure Security Center, Azure Web Application Firewall, also Azure Active Directory. These three features, services that you offer that can look into your continuously manage your workloads, protect your workloads, also manage identity and access to your workloads as well. And lastly, we have the detection and the response to the threats as well. So Microsoft has intelligent security graph and collected from 8 trillion threat signal analyzed daily, and also looks into how to embrace automation with Azure Defender to get threat protection for your workload, and establish a procedure to identify and mitigate threats for your workloads with Azure Sentinels. So all these things are available in Azure, and the services available. So any customers or solution that needs to be integrated with the services, that can be readily available. And Palo Alto has been one of the biggest partner as well, and they've been using the solar services as well to protect solution as well in Palo Alto side. So build upon a secret foundation. So we have talked about how to use this solution, how to look into well-architected framework and protect your data. So we in the well-architected framework, we help you to build upon a secure foundation. So we look into DDoS attack, edge protection, and we look into how to secure hardware, not only the data, also the hardware as well. So custom build hardware, the integrity security session is available. Also, we do continuous testing with our red team from Microsoft, and vulnerability scanning and continuous monitoring as well. We provide the services. So second, we provide also the data protection and security design principle as well. So in data protection, we covers controls and data protection in rest, in transit, also unauthorized access to the mechanism. So this includes discover, the classify, protect, and monitor sensitive data using our access control and encryption and login in Azure as well. So it has tons of definition as well, like how to discover, classify this data, protect the sensitive data, etc., and also encrypt the data at rest as well. So once you have the data protection ready, it also looks in the secure design principle as well. So Microsoft provides a lot of security design principle for Azure, and it looks into the build comprehensive security strategy, also designed for attackers, focus on information protection and resilience, and also zero trust as well. So in a well-architected framework, we look into these things and look into how to secure your solution, which is running in Azure. So we look into DDoS protection, web firewall, application firewall, Azure firewall, network security group that we integrate for your VNet, the virtual network, also VNet integration, so it can restrict access to your Azure resources only to a virtual network. So in well-architected framework, we'll look into how these services or how these designs are actually implemented, how it's designed for a solution. So we look into one by one services, and we look into the Azure Advisor Score as well. So how this is actually designed for your solution. So stay secure the native Azure controls. So in the native Azure controls, we look into the built-in Azure controls, which has identity access management, app data security, network security, threat protection, and secret management, in-depth defense. So these are the 5 things we look into for built-in Azure controls. So these are the endpoints already provided from Microsoft side, from Azure. So look into the identity access, data protection, and network security, threat protection, and security management as well. There are service dedicated for all these features that can be used for your solution to make your solution more secure. If you look into a little bit deeper into how these services offers and how these services work, so Azure Security Center is a infrastructure security management system that helps you to strengthen your solution, your posture, and also data center provides advanced security protection across your hybrid workloads in the cloud, also in the new promises as well. And also Azure Web, we call it WAF. So Azure Web Firewall Framework, also the gateway provides, application gateway provides and centralized protection of a web application and common exploits and vulnerabilities as well. And then we have the Azure Active Directory, we call it Entra right now, and Microsoft Cloud-based identity that gives you the access management for your services, for your employees, also sign in for your employees, sign in and access resources. Um, so if we go a little bit deeper into the data protection and respond to the threats, how we detect the response and then how we protect the response to the threats, this is something that we need to little bit look into as well. So when we allocate a framework, when you design your solution, we focus on well architecture, and these things comes into the picture that how to detect and respond to any threats. So native security and governance, we provide an SE or called secure score, firewall, web app firewall, and SQL protection. So these things are already provided for the native security and governance. And this secure score gives you some scores on the how much your system, your solution or system is protected against this all that threats and vulnerabilities. So once we have this one, we have native threat detection as well. So also we have threat detection for multi-cloud to third-party partners, which Azure Sentinel provides on the top of your solution. So even if you have Microsoft 365 defenders or Azure defenders, on the top you have Azure Sentinels to look into the detect and response to any threats that you that happens for your solution. So Azure Defender provides protection on the top of all the resources you available, like SQL, VMs, containers, and everything. It defenders, and also Azure Sentinel looks into the multi-cloud and also the third-party partners, and it works together to provide you a native threat detection on the top. So in well-architected framework, we look into not only how to secure your data, also to detect and respond to the threats you already have available if you're encountering anything like this. There's some analysis about how the graphical structure or how the data looks like once you have the threats and your advisor score and everything from your Azure portal. So what I've talked about, it not only just in design, but also it is an implementation. So in Azure portal, we collect the scores and we collect the data and for your threat analysis, your vulnerabilities, and provide some scores. So while architecture framework actually focuses on how your system, your solution is designed, not only just looking into the design from the architecture level, but also when it's implemented, how the design, how this solution is secure, what are the scores behind it. So you can see on the top right, top left side, it says reliability, security, performance, cost, and operational excellence. So these are the 5 pillars that we talked about. But since we are focusing only on security, you can see on the security part, it says high 120, 142 recommendation, all these things. So Azure Advisor collects this data from your for your deployed solution and gives the score. So we can look into the details where you can improve your security, and when is there any vulnerability, any backdoor, or anything is there, then it need to change. So based on this one, our customer partners looks into their solution and tries to mitigate the solution, also reduce the threat against your solution. So in the advisor score on the right side, you will see there's a scores provided to show you how much your solution is secure, what is the cost you can improvise, what are the reliability points, all these things. So based on this one, you can check that where you can improve your services or you need to do any changes of your plan or services, or if you need to add any services more to your Azure. And in the graph below that shows you the security SCR and Defender SCR by month. So it shows that how much you're using as the Defender or any services and how much your consumption improves based on the services that you are using. So I will talk a little bit on the next step part as well. So next step, actually, that means suppose you are selecting a solution to look into do the well-architected framework, and you are focusing on specific pillars. Like we talked about 5 pillars. Suppose you want to focus on security pillar, you want to do some security analysis of your solution. What we do, we engage the solution team from a customer or partner side, and we work together. We have some process of strategy how to gather the data. So first one is gathering the data. So we look into your solution, look into subscription based on your multi-subscription or regional deployment as well, and we gather the data. We find out where your vulnerabilities are, what is the scores are. Then we analyze the architecture. So for next-gen firewall, we have done a many well-architected framework workshop with the next-gen firewall team. So we have worked on cost optimization, reliability, and recently we worked on the security part as well. And we looked into we gathered the data for the next gen firewall. We found out what are the vulnerabilities are, if we need, and if we need to change anything, if we need to add any services, or if we need to work on an architecture design. So first we gather the data, then we analyze the architecture, the performance details, incident prepare, also the incidents as well. If anything happened to the solution, if you have any backdoors or any service ticket created that shows there is a security problem with the solution, we looked into this one. Then we prepared a recommendation to the for next gen firewall team that's showing that, hey, these are the things we need to improve in your solution. Suppose I can give an example. So there are some patching required for some APIM to Azure API management to Cosmos DB and call, and that needs to be updated. So these tiny kind of small details comes up in the Azure Advisory scores and give you some recommendation. So we collect all the recommendation, then we create some advisor project plan that can help to prioritize your action plan. So this is the whole process. When you start working the well-architected framework, we work with the partner and look into the solution. Then we gather data, analyze the data, advise. Then we help them to implement. So when it comes to the implementation, we work with the engineers. Also, we work with our architect as well to help them implement this design, the new design. So there's a lot of learning paths works with this one. So there are learning paths available in Microsoft Learn as well, but there is there's an assessment that shows you how to do the assessment. So we have the primary questionnaire for the partner or customers that can allow you or help you to determine where your solution stands right now. So it gives you a questionnaire, suppose like when a well-architected framework that helps you to know your solution better as well. So once you take the assessment, we have a summary assessment that where your solution stands. Then you can have a better idea about where the solution would need some improvement in the security part or the cost or other three pillars as well. So and this all the documentation available online as well. So after the session, we'll have the documentation available, so we can check these links, and you can, if you think that one of your solution is you think you need to do some well-architected framework review for your security or any other five pillars that you talked about, we are happy to help you in this one, and we can move forward with this one. So from here, I will hand it back to David. David, your floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Fan. That was wonderful. So, picking up from where Fan left, I'll go ahead and I'll introduce you to the Cloud Next-Gen Firewall for Azure. Now, before migrating any workloads to the cloud, the subscription and the network needs to be in place. As what Fan mentioned, this is called the landing zone in Azure. Now, network connectivity and network security is a key part of an organization's landing zone architecture. Now, for your network design, there are two models that Azure customers can adopt. You can either adopt the VNet model or you can adopt the V1 model. The first model is the VNet model. So that is a regional model. It gives the customer control on the underlying aspects of the network. The second is the virtual one, or the V1 model, which uses a Microsoft managed global network service. The V1 model is preferred for scenarios when an organization needs to meet large-scale interconnectivity requirements. Maybe you need full mesh connectivity. For example, if an organization has the intention to deploy resources across several Azure regions with global connectivity, this is the model to go for. The VNet model is preferred when an organization needs to implement a traditional hub and spoke network topology and full mesh connectivity is not required. Now, for both of these models, Palo Alto Networks, in conjunction with Microsoft, has built solid solutions that you can use to secure your enterprise landing zone in Azure. Similar to what was mentioned earlier, network security in the cloud can be hard. There are challenges that you face as an organization, and you need to plan and have strategies on how to tackle those challenges. Current approaches that practitioners are considering when they are doing network security in the cloud require trade-offs that in most cases are not aligned with the goal of the organization. So existing native security options in the Azure cloud provide basic security capabilities, but they have gaps, and those gaps could potentially leave the organization exposed and vulnerable. Now, to solve this challenge, organizations can turn to third-party virtual appliances in the Azure Marketplace. And we have virtual appliances ourselves in the Azure Marketplace. We have a VM service solution. But one of the things that organizations find with that is that operationally, that can be challenging. It can be challenging to deploy, to scale, to manage. And sometimes they may not align well, especially if you have implemented cloud native workflows. And then you have the challenge around fragmentation. Over 70% of organizations use multiple cloud platforms, and each cloud provider has a different model for managing network security. This is a big challenge that organizations are trying to solve. This is why Microsoft and Palo Alto Networks built the Cloud Next Generation service. This is the first and the only native next generation firewall service in the Azure cloud. It offers best-in-class security because for the 11th straight year, Palo Alto Networks was named a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for network firewalls. It offers ease of use because it's an Azure managed service, so it's easy to deploy, it's easy to operate, it's easy to automate. You can automate it using any Azure automation preference that you may have. And also, it's easy for you to extend it for the multi-cloud and for the hybrid cloud and keep your consistency. Some of the capabilities that we have to offer to help you to address some of the network security gaps using the Cloud Next Generation Firewall are capabilities including the App ID, which can help you to reduce the attack surface by controlling traffic based on our patented Layer 7 traffic classification. We have the Advanced Threat Protection capabilities, which uses a combination of our wildfire solution and other advanced solutions to detect and stop exploiting the attack. We have advanced URL filtering based on our unique machine learning technologies and capabilities that we have tried and tested for many enterprises for many years. Now, let's talk about the Cloud Next Generation Firewall deployment and management in the Azure cloud. The Cloud Next Generation Firewall for Azure is delivered as a native Azure service. What that means to you as a customer or as an organization is that you no longer have to manage infrastructure in order for you to implement cloud network security. All the management overhead is now removed. This gives you as a practitioner the time back that you need to really focus on the real business impacting priorities and not spend a lot of your time just managing infrastructure. All you have to do is focus on managing your security policies. Now, from a deployment perspective, the service integrates with the Azure platform. We provide support for deployment using the Azure portal, using Azure templates, using Terraform, using Azure CLI or Azure PowerShell, and even the Python SDK. So what this does is that it gives you as a practitioner the most flexibility to choose whatever option works well for you and your organization. In addition to the flexible deployment options, Cloud Next Generation Firewall for Azure has native integrations with other Azure services. So that includes Entra ID, or what was formerly known as Azure AD. You can use that to configure your role-based access control. It includes managed identities that you can use to access other Azure services. You can store the certificates that you use for TLS decryption in Azure Key Vault. You can stream the logs straight from the Cloud Next Generation Firewall solution into a log analytics workspace in Azure, or maybe into Event Hub or into Azure Storage. And more recently, we released the Sentinel solution with multiple workbooks, and that include things like analytic rules, hunting queries for easier integration if you're a Microsoft Sentinel user. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump over to my Azure environment and show you a quick demonstration of how easy it is to deploy the Cloud Next Generation Firewall offering and the different integrations that we have with the Azure cloud. So here I am in the Azure console. So what I have before me is a Terraform template that I can use for deploying the Cloud Next Generation Firewall resource in Azure. So it defines the different resources that will be created, like the public IP address that will be used for outbound NAT. It includes information about virtual one resource that will be created, and also information about the Palo Alto Network's virtual appliance in terms of the Cloud Next Generation Firewall service in Azure. If you're looking for information on how to create a template similar to what I have, you can refer to the Azure RM Terraform Provider documentation on the Terraform website. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll create the plan for this template. And once the plan is worked out, I'll proceed to apply the changes. So here we've got 12 resources that's going to be creating. And because I have previous resources created before, it's going to be removing one resource. So that's fine by me. I can go ahead and apply my templates using Terraform apply. It's going to ask me in a few seconds to approve the changes. And once I approve that, the deployment is going to start. So I'll go ahead and enter yes to approve the changes, and the deployment is going to begin. Now, I'm not going to wait for the deployment to complete. I just want to pass across the information that you can now deploy the Cloud Next Generation Firewall resource using Terraform. In the meantime, what I'll do is I'll go over to the Azure platform and I'll show you how to deploy this into an Azure Virtual One resource. So here I have an Azure Virtual One resource, and the Virtual One has two Virtual One hubs. So if I go to my hubs, I have a hub that's in West US and another hub in East US. Now the hub in East US already has a Cloud Next Generation Firewall resource deployed, so I'll deploy a resource into the hub in West US. So to do that, I'll click on the third-party providers, I'll click on SaaS solutions. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the only native Cloud Next Generation Firewall service in the Azure cloud. I'll go ahead and I'll create SaaS. And you can see I have the option for the Palo Alto Networks Cloud NGFW. I'll go ahead and I'll click on create. It's going to ask me for the properties for the resource. I'll enter the name, Cloud Next Generation Firewall in West US. I'll specify the plan to use. You can see it automatically sets that to the Virtual One Hub. I can choose to do my management using a local Azure role stack or using Panorama. And once I agree to the terms and conditions and I click on review and create, that's going to start the creation process. So you can see that this is very easy to create. I'll go ahead and click on create. So that was a demonstration of the easy deployment that we have for the Cloud Next Generation Firewall service in Azure. Now, when it comes to policy management, you have a diversity of options. You can use Azure Native Management in form of the local rule stack, or you can use Panorama to manage your security policies. And what that does is it allows you to have a single pane to manage your entire network security policies, whether it's on premises, in different clouds, and also in the Azure cloud. So if you're doing your security policy management through Panorama, we have a native plugin that you can deploy. And the native plugin gives you easy capability to create device groups, to create template stacks that you can use to apply your policies in a centralized way. Now let's talk about use cases and reference architectures. The Cloud Next Generation Firewall for Azure Service offers support for multiple deployment scenarios. The easiest one is for implementing a secure outbound solution for your Azure virtual networks. So this includes applying capabilities like the App ID to control application traffic based on the payloads that's detected, include things like the advanced threat protection to block known exploits and malware, and the advanced URL filtering to block both known and unknown malicious domains using our machine learning capabilities. So this scenario is a great use case for Azure Virtual Desktop deployment, for lift and shift scenarios to the Azure cloud, or even cloud native scenarios like AKS and web apps, or for even straight tunneling from on-premises through Azure. Now, what I have here is an example of such architecture. So this is a secure AKS landing zone with Cloud Next Generation Firewall for Azure. So in this scenario that you have on the screen, you have an AKS deployment that's leveraging the Cloud Next Generation Firewall resource that's deployed in a hub network to secure outbound traffic for your entire AKS workloads. So this is essentially a secure application modernization deployment. Here is another scenario with a secure Azure Virtual Desktop landing zone architecture in Azure. Similar scenario to what I showed earlier with AKS, but in this scenario, we have an Azure Virtual Desktop that's deployed for secure remote work, where custom users are connecting straight through your virtual network, but then you have the guarantee for security through the Cloud Next Generation Firewall resource, again, through the hub network. Here is another use case for secure inbound access. In addition to services that Faan mentioned earlier, like the application gateway, we have inbound security capabilities that we can implement. For example, leveraging capabilities like IP to control application traffic based on payload, strong intrusion detection and intrusion prevention capabilities to augment some of the capabilities of the Azure application gateway, advanced threat protection to block again known exploits and malware. So good scenarios for this would be the web application deployment in Azure and even protection for non-HTTP workloads that you need to secure inbound traffic for. Another good use case is for secure lateral access protection. So again, leveraging capabilities like App ID and advanced threat protection, you can use that to cover your east-west traffic flow. So in case there's been a compromise and an attacker is trying to move laterally across your Azure environment, this can help to do that network level traffic inspection and help to detect and stop a lot of the threat at this level. Here is an example of that in action with a secure global virtual WAN landing zone architecture. So in the scenario that you can see on the screen, you have you have a single virtual WAN with two virtual WAN hubs spread in different regions in Azure. You have different networks, virtual networks in Azure that are connected to the local virtual WAN hub. You have a site-to-site VPN connection, or it could be an express route gateway connection that's connected into one of the virtual hubs. And now you have the Cloud Next Generation Firewall resource deployed into each of the hub to provide that secure protection for both inbound and outbound traffic flow. And here is another interesting scenario where you have a secure application landing zone architecture with Cloud Next Generation Firewall for Azure, securing a platform as a service only deployment. So in this particular deployment, the customer is not deploying any virtual machines. There are no infrastructure services. All you have are platform services like Azure App Service, Azure Functions, Azure Key Vault, Service Bus, MySQL database or Azure SQL database. And still, even in this deployment, the Cloud Next Generation Firewall resource, being the platform resource itself, fits right into that to provide that native security implementation. So I'm back in the Azure console, and I'll show you some of the native integrations that we have between the Cloud Next Generation Firewall resource in Azure and other Azure services. So starting with Entra ID, we have two new roles that you can use to configure permissions for your Cloud Next Generation Firewall resources. So we have the local Next Generation Firewall Administrator role that you can use to grant administrative privileges to the firewall resource. And we have the local VOSTAC Administrator role that you can use to grant administrative permissions to whoever needs to be able to create security policies. The other integration that I want to show you has to do with log analytics. So if I go on the settings, on the log settings, and here I can edit the workspace that I want to send my logs to. So I can stream logs directly from the resource into a log analytics workspace. I already have one configured here, and I can show you some sample queries from that. So if I head over to my log analytics workspace, I have some KQL queries that I'm going to be running here. So here's a KQL query that's going to check any traffic coming from my backend client IP address, and that's allowed in the last 24 hours. So if I go ahead and I run that query, so it may fail the first time, but that's fine. We just need to get that and run that, let's say, for the last 4 hours. And if I run that again, and now I can see the traffic that's been allowed through the next generation firewall from my backend client. I can also run other queries like the following. So let me run another one to show me the top 5 applications that pass through the firewall in the last 4 hours. So if I go ahead and I run that, here you can see that I've got a lot of web browsing, SSL traffic, NTP-based quick, and some other types of traffic. So that shows the log analytics integration. The other integration that I want to show to you has to do with Key Vault and how the resource accesses other services in Azure. So if I head over to the rule stack, and if I go to under my certificates here, what you see is I have some certificates here that I'm using for decryption. And if I edit the one that I'm using for my SSL decryption or my TLS decryption, you see that the certificate actually selected from a Key Vault resource that I have in Azure. So the certificate is actually stored in Key Vault. But how is the Cloud NextGen Firewall resource getting access to Key Vault? Well, it's doing that using a managed identity resource. So I have a managed identity that's linked to my Cloud NextGen Firewall resource that I've granted permissions to Key Vault, and it's using that to retrieve the certificates. Speaking about that, let me show you a demonstration of HTTPS decryption through the Cloud Next Generation Firewall resource in Azure. So I have here a backend virtual machine, which I have some web browsing going. So if I go to google.com, if I go to www.bbc.co.uk and I press enter to that, it takes me to the BBC website. But if I click over there to see what sort of certificate are we using, if I can see that, you can see that the connection is secure. If I click on that and I go to view the certificates, you'll see that the certificates that it's using here, let me go ahead and expand that a little bit. What you see is that the certificate is actually issued by the Cloud Next Generation Firewall, which is intercepting that request, decrypting that traffic, performing its inspection, and forwarding that on to the BBC website. So that shows you some of the key integrations that we have between the Cloud Next Generation Firewall resource and other Azure services. So that concludes the demonstration of the native integrations that we have with the Cloud Next Generation Firewall and the Azure Cloud Platform. So now I'll pass back over to Farhan to walk us through some of the interesting things that we're doing with the Cloud Next Generation Firewall service and Azure OpenAI. Over to you, Farhan.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. It's always great to see technical demo from your side. As David said, with NextGen Firewall, we're also doing some amazing work with OpenAI as well. So we started this OpenAI integration and demo work back on 2023 November. So we started integrating Copilot with Next-Gen Firewall, and now we're capitalizing on this. We're going to extend this with bigger design for all the control planes that Next-Gen Firewall has, and integrate this OpenAI as well. So before going into some more details on the next-gen firewall, I want to focus a little bit on how we are promoting our OpenAI through our accelerator program. So we call it Azure OpenAI Apps Landing Accelerator Program. So it will help customers and partners deploy OpenAI solution and integrate OpenAI solution and services to their and integrate these services to their solution. So we'll look into the concept, some acceleration program, what it talks about, how to execute this thing, and some case studies with our existing customers. So an overview of the OpenAI Accelerator program is the goal of the Accelerator program is to help you quickly set up your deployment and production environment for your generative AI solution built on the top of Azure OpenAI and Azure services. So like what we're doing in Next-Gen Firewall. So Next-Gen Firewall solution running on Azure, and we have the power of data with OpenAI of Next-Gen Firewall, and we are on the top integrating OpenAI so it can help create a Gen AI solution for Next-Gen Firewall. It will help customer to work on a specific set of use cases for Next-Gen Firewall customers, and also to help Next-Gen Firewall team to look into to work with some generative AI solution scenarios. So with Gen AI solution scenarios, we have four important parts. The first one is the summarization. Second one is the retrieval augmented generation. That's the design concept that we have. Also data-driven decisioning, and also automated intelligent agent. So these are the four main concepts of generating for Gen AI solution scenarios. Summarization is so summarize a massive quantities of information for your consumption and communication. So this is the summarization part of your Gen AI solution. So you have tons of data. You want to summarize these contents and create some summarized contents for your user or for your audiences. This is where we integrate Gen AI solution. Retrieval augmented generation is a design concept for your Q&A or chat with your data. Data solution where data is retrieved and provided through large language model for your generative responses. And also data-driven decision as well, to analyze, interpret data, to uncover patterns and identify trends. These things come into data-driven decisioning. And lastly, the autonomous intelligent agent. That agent repetitive tasks is to streamline and be more productive. So when you look into this for a particular customer solution, we decide where the customer is focused into. Are they looking more to the summarization of the content, or more into an augmented generation of any speech or a talk to chatbot, large language modeling, or making a decision based on the provided input from your data. So with this one, we look into few other things. So if I go a little bit deeper into the retrieval augmented generation RAG model or anatomy of this thing. So you can see from here, it can give you a high level architecture or a diagram about how this RAG model works. So retrieval augmented generation for large language models aims to improve the prediction quality by using an external data store or inference time to build richer prompts. Includes combination of context, history, knowledge, and relevant data for the knowledge. So on the diagram, you can see here the knowledge base is one is created. It continuously search for knowledge results and queries the relevant content, and the user can create prompts that can look into these knowledge bases. And the large language model for OpenAI service that we have, it creates the large model content reply back to the as a responses to your to the users. So users only ask questions and get the answers through this orchestrator, and orchestrator to looks into this knowledge base and creates responses based on the large language model. So it's kind of like an overall architecture of the anatomy of how it actually works inside the RAG model. The anatomy of the different components that we have, if we put this into like from more for step by step like the ingestion and chunking, indexing, and prompting, we can look into how the data is ingested from the top. So you have different kind of set of data that you want to provide to your cognitive knowledge base. You can definitely use different services from Azure to store this. And for the search index, you can use Azure Search Indexes and Azure Vector Search as well to search the exact data from the data that you want. And that works with OpenAI services to create a response back using large language modeling. So this is the internal anatomy, how it works behind the scene. So if we focus more into this one, so the deployment part of it. So there are two main part of the deployment when it comes into how to deploy this anatomy for your solution. So there are two available deployment solution that we provide right now. One is to Azure AI Studio, and another one is standalone deployment. So will look a little bit details into the deployment part. The first one is using Azure AI Studio because it's an integrated managed environment that simplifies the deployment and the management. So it comes with Azure portal. So once you go to Azure portal, you can just create an OpenAI service, and from here you will see Azure OpenAI Studios there. It helps to simplify the management, so you can quickly create tools and workflows and integrate your data source, and then you can have your whole process integrated into few clicks. So it gives you more managed view of your solution. But a few things are there also, of course. Since it's a managed solution, there's a limitation of the customization, configuration of the network. If you have a different virtual environment and if you want to bring this data from one pinnet to another pinnet, so there's some limitation how to configure the network. Also, there's some scaling often as well. So fine tuning and scaling becomes a little bit of challenge at the time because it's more managed environment, and there's some restriction as well. But it's a very, very easy way. Azure OpenAI Studio gives you a very quick process of deploying any solution and create an OpenAI Studio, creating any model for your OpenAI integration for your solution. And definitely you can work on this one. Standalone deployment, it has more full flexibility of your solution and integrating with OpenAI. It gives you network configuration and resources, work on the configuration resources, also fine tuning your performance scales, also broader range of features. So it can, these two flavor actually gives you how you want to manage, deploy, and work with the solution going forward as well. So one is very quickly you can deploy a few things and you start the solution and you can see some OpenAI integration right away. And another one is you work on at the bigger picture. If you want to scalable solution in your multiple regions, then you can look into the standalone deployment as well. But standard deployment looks into the require more in-depth knowledge of the management of the resources, Azure resources, and there comes the operational responsibility as well for you are deploying different resources, which is integrated in OpenAI. So if you look into a little bit more into the component that will is deployed when you deploy OpenAI Studio using this Landing Zone Accelerator program. So you can see the Azure AI Landing Zone components has big components. One is the resource, AI services, and the projects. So all these things are mapped together. So once you deploy this OpenAI services is going to be created in the resource group and is going to integrate with different services. So uh, AI resource is going to talk to AI services, which is Azure Speech or other cognitive services, Azure OpenAI, and the content safety as well, and also makes connection with Azure AI Search, OpenAI services. Also, you can connect with your GitHub repository as well, so integrating code base. Um, then on the AI project component part, if you go a little bit deeper into the component part, specifically on the AI, OpenAI, so you can see there are a few things that is totally dedicated to OpenAI services. It's a project part. It has some tools which has the neural network, evaluation, fine tuning, prompt flow that comes with the tools for OpenAI project components. And the second one is the component part. We have the data, indexing of the components, deployment, then compute resources, interfaces, and the connection, where you connect your OpenAI to maybe Copilot via other third-party services or other application as well, with AI search, API endpoints, and you have the billing part as well. So this diagram gives you the component of Azure AI Studio, which can be deployed using the Bicep deployment. So you can use Azure Bicep and Azure OpenAI Studio together, so deploy your solution for OpenAI. Also, Azure OpenAI Studio supports two more virtual network integration right now. One is the managed VNet, also in the private link as well. Now, if we look into the standalone deployment of Azure OpenAI, and that's separate. So, like we talked about, one is Azure OpenAI Studio. You go to OpenAI Studio, and you deploy resources. Is going to create the components, and it's ready for you to integrate to your solution. But if you're looking into more complex architecture, like we have Next-Gen Firewall, it has its own control plane, management plane, own resources, services, and we are looking into multiple regions throughout the world, 60 plus regions. And this is where it goes a little bit complexity. Also, you need some more manageable infrastructure as well, where you can scale up and bring more resources into this one. So if you look into the standalone solution, you can see from here, on the left side is called you see the connectivity subscription. This part is from Azure Landing Zone architecture. So in Azure Landing Zone architecture, you can deploy a solution or use Azure Landing Zone. Then you can integrate the OpenAI subscription. On the right side, it says Open Standalone Accelerator. So you can see you can have version subnet as well. So you can have version. Also, you can have your other services integrated that can talk through endpoint, private endpoint, or VNet to your OpenAI services, which is deployed in your own VNet here. So you can scale this and bring more security into your different services, and then integrate this with your bigger solution part, where you have only putting this in a subset of your whole architecture. So you don't have to you can have more manageable infrastructure, and less limitation on how you want to deploy your solution and resources. Like you can see in the AI service subscription. So we create subscription, then you deploy your solution, then you deploy your services and connect this to your endpoints, which gives you more flexibility and freedom how to use different services. So you can see you have Azure AI Service Search here, OpenAI Services, which is sitting in AI subnet. So you can have different subnet dedicated for your AI services. So you can connect to your endpoint or your VNet peering as well. So these are and standalone services that you can provide through Accelerator program. Now going back to the OpenAI Studio, this is the mostly used feature, or the tool that for most of the customer and partners that we for Microsoft, OpenAI Studio. So once you have your Azure subscription and you go there, then there's a few clicks that you create your OpenAI, and you can integrate this with your solution. So you can see Azure OpenAI on your data. This is a new release Azure OpenAI Azure OpenAI for your solution. So you connect your industrial data, then you OpenAI create models that be using for your data. Then you create some retrieval augment generation, and that we looked into the RAG model. It makes it easy. Then you can also restrict the response on your data with some content filter as well. And also we provide the enterprise grade security through private network, VPN, other access. So this is something David was talking, that how we provide enterprise grade security for the solution, and how we just provide it for Next-Gen Firewall. So looking into the same picture, this enterprise grade security, we can still bring OpenAI into the picture, and then we can use private network and VPN and other accessibility to the data as well. And lastly, the deployment is very easy. Is you connect the data and you click on submit, and that's it. It deploys right away. So if I go a little bit deeper into this one, this is something we were doing on Next-Gen Firewall as well. So we have Next-Gen Firewall, we have data sitting in Cosmos DB. We have data sitting in Log Analytics. We have data in Azure storage as well. So OpenAI services connects to this data through its endpoints, the API endpoints, and also it can connect to third-party databases as well. And Azure OpenAI looks into this data, creates its knowledge base, trains itself, and then it can be called through app and to API, any API and SDK through your app front end. So you can have a mobile app, web app, or any other app, or any Copilot integration for your Office 365, and then you can connect to OpenAI Studio. So you have tons of data sitting somewhere. You can connect through Azure OpenAI to your front end application. We'll go a little bit deeper into this one as well, but let me see a few things about how this structure looks like inside this Azure Copilot. So on the top, you can see the app part. The app part, you have your app plugin extensibility, your Copilot integration, and you have your Copilot on the top of it. And you can use this Copilot to integrate with your Azure OpenAI services. So your prompt flow, meta prompt, then your execution, all these built-in safety responsible AI tools, and all these things are together, and then we can add this on the top of your apps. So here, look into um, how to work with your own data. Suppose if I want to use bring your own data, I can do it in few ways. Suppose here I have one data set already added. The data set was basically work on some online exam on some 3D graphics art. So I will ask the question about what is the exam about. So it's going to respond me back with the exam type, some references as well. So what I did, I will just remove the data from here first. So what I did, I went to this one, added to my data. I selected my data source. I selected uploaded my own files. So it's going to ask me what subscription I'm going to use. I'm going to use my test subscription. Then I'm going to select the blob storage where I have uploaded the PDF file. So if you don't have the blob storage, you can definitely create a blob storage account here, and they can upload the PDF file that you want your OpenAI to get trained on. Once you do that, you can select the this blob storage file container as well, and where then you have to select the Azure search resource. So if you have the search resource already created in Azure portal, that's fine. You can just navigate to it and you can select this one. If you don't have it, Azure search resource, you have to create a search resource, and this search will be used to the search based on the index as well. So here I already have the search index, so I can select this one. Then I can select my index name, any test index, like any test index name, then I have to create the text. So once you do that, I can upload the file where upload the PDF file or any HTML file or a text file that I want my OpenAI to get trained on. Then I'll ask question about. Suppose if I want to select any files here, then you can select here. Once you do that, then it's going to train yourself, and then you can ask question like I have done before. So that's one way. Second way, let me also look into this one. So data files as well. So once you select this one, you can create, upload new data sets like I showed before as well. Also in the chat, you can create your data sets how you want to, like add your own data and add data source. And from there, you can select if this is in a blob storage or any other files. So if I want to select blob storage, you can already see that I have a blob storage created. You can select what specific container you want to select. So I have many containers that in my blob storage. I have some Kubernetes containers where it dumps Kubernetes logs information, my AKS log information as well. So let's see if I can select my Kubernetes event log storage here. Then I will select my search index, and I will then give a search name like AKS test. And then I'm going to select some keyword, what keyword type, search type is keyword or not, a chunk size. So I've put the default for 1024 for now. Chunking is the process of breaking down the documents in the smaller segments for search and retrieval. So chunk size is measured basically in tokens. So if you select a chunk size bigger, we're going to ingest data in the bigger different sizes as well. So I will keep it for now.
this one, and then save and close. So once I do that, it's going to connect Azure Blob Storage container where I have dumped my as log information. Then it's going to initiate the Azure Search resource to go through the index and learn, and then train itself on the data. So once I do that, this ingestion process takes a little bit of time, not that much. It immediately links into the data and tries to train yourself on the ongoing data and files. So so these are the process where you can add your resources, your different data files, or you can bring your own data and train your OpenAI on this one, and then you can create an experience for your users and whoever is using this OpenAI integration. Um, so that's one part of let it get trained on the data. In the meantime, so it's saying it's already been connected and the chances succeeded with 10-0 documents. Okay, that's fine. So let's work on the data. So let's ask about the question about the data as well. Um, what are the queue events? Let's see if we can find this data. Okay. So once you do that, you can ask question about get other answer as well. Then you can import your setup or export setup. If you want to import your setup, you can the setup that you've created for your OpenAI Studio. You can import this and you can just use this and you can going to use the same system message examples and parameters, so you don't have to recreate this again and again. Also, you can export the setup as a JSON file, so you can export it back again as a for your chat experience. Also, you can deploy to a new web app. So once you create this one, you can directly deploy this as a web app from also to creating a new web app using your subscription, your app source and app plan, and then select the pricing plan. Once you do that, it's going to deploy this right away to your web application as a web application. If you already have an existing web app where you want to deploy these two, let me see if I can have for deploy these two. It's going to search inside this and is going to deploy this as an existing web app to your existing web app. And once you deploy this, web app is going to train itself on the data you have already provided. So Ravi is working on this one. You can see here. Once it does it, it's going to deploy this as a web app, and it can be shareable to other users as well, other users or any other person who are interested. So here I can ask question about how to configure the role stack, local role stack for the firewall, for next-gen firewall. So it's going to provide me a list of information, some guidances, how to do that, and it's step-by-step process. Next, I can ask about, can you provide a Terraform script to deploy the firewall for next-gen firewall? So it's going to give me a sample Terraform script that I can configure and use it for my firewall deployment for the specific subscription. So you can see here that in return, it's going to give me a Terraform script that I can configure for my firewall and should be able to use this to deploy my firewall in the subscription. I can use it. Next, I can ask about questions like, give me the tabular list of firewall that were successful or failed for the specific subscription. So it's going to provide me all this of firewall list of failed and successful firewalls. You can see you have the successful firewalls. Then I can ask question about, give me the tabular list of the specific subscription where all the firewalls are failed. So I can ask question to my OpenAI services which can help me to understand more about my firewall deployment, what the status of the firewall deployment is. So you can see it's going to provide me the list of all the failed firewalls. Now I can ask question about how to troubleshoot this. So this assistance gives you the step-by-step workflow that you can use to deploy firewall, look in the rules engine, also deploy firewalls, look into the failure, and troubleshoot the firewall. So he's going to provide me how to troubleshoot the firewall, some step-by-step process of the troubleshooting as well.
Yeah, that's pretty much it is what we have done so far with Next-Gen Firewall or OpenAI Studio. I have few links that we can definitely check about specifically for OpenAI, Azure OpenAI models, documentation, and mechanics video as well, which really helps to people to understand that how the internal mechanism looks like. If they want to do a quick demo, they can definitely check these links, and I'm happy to help them as well. I think that's all I have for today for OpenAI integration with Next-Gen Firewall, also an OpenAI acceleration program. I will hand it to David. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Farhan. That was very interesting. So, this is where we're going to put everything to a stop. So, thanks very much, everyone, for watching. Please check out the links on the channel for further information on the solutions that we've discussed. We look very much to welcoming you the next time. See you later. Bye for now.